Homie Homersons. We finally won a derby, dude. That's my first win on Lake Guntersville. Just a little ABA, nothing gigantic, but a great group of guys, some real hammers in there, and it was a blast. Like, I was super stoked. It's been quite a few years in the process. It really was a challenge to kind of understand the transitions, the way these fish behave. Not saying I've arrived or anything like that, because there's a lot of guys 1,000 times better than me out here. But it felt really good to kind of put it together for one day and kind of do it in my way. So what we're going to do, you guys really enjoyed the tournament recap, the first one we did, where we dove into the details. Like, I went in depth, no holds barred, no BS. So I'm going to walk you through my exact day on Guntersville. We had a total of about 23 pounds. Second was, I think, like 21 and change, and then third was 21 and change. So it was pretty tight. I went out, and my philosophy was I was going to go catch some fish deep, try to get to 18 to 20 pounds if I was lucky, and then either go flip mats, depending, kind of assess the attitude of the fish, go flip mats, or stay back out deep. The biggest mistake that I made in my first tournament is I could not get a big bite in the morning. Like, that was the biggest screw up. If I could have closed the deal on 1 or 2 fish that I had on in the morning, I would have been right up there. I'm not saying I would have beat Hayden the first one, but I would have been close. So my biggest goal, first off, was to get out there and try to get a big bite. Well, I've been hanging out with my buddy Austin, and he showed me a bait. I've been playing with all these flukes, right? Like that pintail from Duo Realis and that. And he showed me a bait. He called it the dong. And so that's going to be the name. That's not the official name. You'll find it on Tackle Warehouse. But I threw a dong in the morning, dude. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I've been playing with these flukes, and I really wanted to commit to a bigger bite. So what I did is let me pull these jokers out. I got these guys. This is the Deps Sakamata Shad. This is the 7-inch. It is a dong. It is a great big giant bait. Now, what makes the Deps a little bit different is it's a gigantic fluke, right? But you see it has these fins kind of on the side right there. And what they cause that bait to do is they cause it to rock. The biggest challenge I found with this is finding the right jig head for it. I used an 1/8 ounce Scottsboro Hellfire. It's like kind of a finesse jig, but what I did is I believe it's the 4/0 head. So it's that guy right there, just a little screw lock on there. I'm going to warn you right off the bat. These Sakamata Shads are ungodly expensive. They're like $10, $11 a bag, not to mention the fact that you can barely find them half the time. So the other problem is literally you catch 1 or 2 fish, if you're lucky 2 fish, and they tear up, dude. I don't care what jig head you're using. So it's a very expensive transaction, and I'm cranky when I catch a 2-pounder, but the reality is they also get pretty darn big bites. There's big gizzard shad out here, and what I wanted to do is I wasn't catching all the fish in these little small pods, but by throwing this big old, and we're gonna say it again because I love it, throwing the dong, I was able to close the deal on a couple big ones. So we got out there right away in the morning, threw the dong. I lost like a 3.5, 4-pounder. I pick up the Carolina rig, and using the worm that I told you about, that little net bait that isn't made anymore, the flex worm, it's a little standard straight tail, but it's a little different. It's got some ribs. The bite wasn't super great in the morning once again, but I threw this on my little Carolina rig and ended up picking up a 4-pounder. It was the only fish that I caught for about, I'd say 45 minutes, an hour in the morning. The fish didn't seem to be set up, and there was a lot of bait suspended. And usually when that happens, it makes these fish really hard to catch. But I had done what I wanted to do. I caught like a 4 and change right off the bat in the morning, and that was hugely important. Then we transitioned to total dong fishing for about 2.5 hours. I did lose a couple fish. I'm gonna give you another warning with this thing. I was using a 4/0 hook. I don't know what jig really is perfect for this because it is such a big dong-like bait. And I had problems because just like when you're flipping, say, like a 2 ounce or like a really giant weight, that weight acts to sort of unhook the fish. It bonks on the hook, and it causes that fish to or that hook to dislodge, I guess you could say. And I had a 4-pounder where I was right at the boat. This was actually one of the first ones that I hooked, and I let it come up because I'm throwing it on 12-pound fluorocarbon to 12-pound braid on a little medium light spinning rod. It's very underrated for the presentation, but I like it because I can do more with the bait. And basically that fish jumped, and I saw this bait just go bonk right against that jig head, and she come right off, dude. So from there moving forward, to catch those few good ones that I had in the morning on the dong, what I did is I kept my rod tip down in the water. I wouldn't let these fish jump. They would still jump from time to time, but I really tried to control them and keep them down. And that seemed to be the key. It's a lot like a sexy shad, just some kind of goldish glitter in there, like a pearl blue, and then a little bit of like fleck with silver and some yellow. So we went and danced that thing around, and by the time basically I caught those few big ones, it had slowed down a little bit. So what I transitioned to is going back to that Carolina rig, and then I picked up this guy who has been super duper clutch for me, just a little Nico rig, just with a little harness on there, and then a little 1/8 ounce that's a little Damiki weight, and then just a little circle hook. It's I think a Gamakatsu Aaron Martin's. That is a Berkeley max scent. I've had a lot of success with that lately. And what I was doing is two things. I wasn't exactly dragging it like you'd imagine like a standard Nico rig. I was either kind of shaking it above those fish, almost swimming it like you would like that jig and minnow style, or I would cast and basically drop it down onto fish or right behind fish that I'd see on forward facing, and then basically just shake it right in place, not moving it that much. The dragging bite, other than with that Carolina rig, didn't seem to be super great. So I did that. I ended up catching another, I think like 4.5 pounder, dude. Like, awesome. So this is when things got a little hairy. I had a great start. I think I had like 18 or 19 pounds pretty darn quick, right? So I'm super stoked, you know. All like, I think my smallest fish was maybe like 2.8 or something, 2.7. So I was killing it, dude. Well, I felt really good by like 9 o'clock. What happened at 9 o'clock, usually the ledge bite kicks on like fire, dude. Like 9 to 11, everybody sets up. It's good for like 2 hours. It's awesome. Take advantage. You run your stuff. Bro, it started blowing. And I'm talking like 3-footers, like white caps, dude. I was taking them over the front. I don't know if it's like Lake Huron level, but like it was bad. And that makes it very difficult to line up on fish. And then for the fish that I'm trying to catch off forward facing sonar, makes it practically impossible. So I caught a few more fish on that Carolina rig, just dragging blind, you know, traditional ledge fishing and that. But it just wasn't the size, and I wasn't able to kind of line myself up the way I wanted to. So I made a decision. I think it was probably like 10, 11 o'clock. And I'm like, Balls, you got two choices. One, you stay down here and you grind on through. Or two, you run up to some of these grass mats that you got and you commit to it. You pick it apart and see if you can't call up. Because all I needed to do was call up like 2 fish, like catch like a couple 5s, a couple 4s, something like that. And I'd be in that 22 to 24 pound range. What I decided to do, I'm like, dude, if I'm going to win, I want to win the way I want to win, right? So I went up and flipped mats. So I got out, let's see here, Old Trusty. So that is a 1.5 ounce with a Gambler stinger. This is the Florida 5.0 color. I used that, and I used Magic Craw. That's 80-pound braid, little hack attack hook, double bobber stopper. And I went up to some of these isolated grass mats. I had found them a while back, maybe like a week or 2 ago, and there had been a bunch of brim around them, and you'd hear that kissing sound. But the funny part was there was grass like everywhere, right? Like tons of beautiful mats. And what I'd found was there was a 50-yard stretch where I'd get bit. It looked exactly the same as everything else, but it seemed like when I'd get in that area, I'd make my drop and dong! Every place else, I'd just make drops and nothing would happen. So I ran up there and started making drops. And dude, I started a little wider than my stretch, figuring, hey, I got like 3 hours. Let me be super diligent and expand on this area. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I wasn't as detail oriented as I needed to be. There's got to be more fish here. Well, lo and behold, I burned about an hour flipping absolutely dead water. Like, did not get bites. Nothing happened. It was kind of, I don't know, it kind of slowed me down, and I started regretting my decision. I'm like, dude, maybe I should have stayed out on those ledges. And so I kept committing to it. I'm like, you know what? All I need is 2 bites out of here. Let me stick with it and see if I can't just close the deal on it. I'm here. I'm committed. I got to run another like 8 miles, 10 miles down south if I want to go back to this ledge stuff. Let me just push on through. I'll make something happen. I believe I can catch them. And that was the biggest trick right there. So I kept on dropping. The biggest trick, which which kind of hurt me, is I couldn't catch these fish dangle doodling. So a lot of times when I'm flipping these mats, I'll pitch that bait in, I'll lift it, I'll suspend it, I'll pump the bait up and down, you know, basically trigger, like there's a lot of fish in these mats and around these mats, and I'll trigger those fish to bite. Well, that hasn't been the case. Everything that I've gotten to bite has been on the drop, like that initial fall, total reaction strike, right? So I got down to my first waypoint, dude. And this is where it gets kind of funny, to me at least. And I pitch in, dude, and something weird just happened. The little soft, they weren't biting super hard, but it was like a little dunk. And I'm like, oh. Bro, pinned them, dude. Like, could not move. Now, the funny thing with mat fishing is you don't know whether you got like a 2.5 pounder like locked up or like a 5 pounder. It's until when they lock up in that mat and get stuck, you're just like, I don't know until I pull all the salad away and find out what my gift is, right? It's like a Happy Meal, bro. So I get in there, I gotta go get this fish. I troll in, I'm pulling grass, and I look down and there's this big mouth right there. Dude, it's like a 4.5 pounder. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Get her in the boat. And I'm like, bro, I got another like 40 yards here. If this one's here and my points are on and I did my due diligence, I'm gonna get bit again. Call out that fish, keep on going down the stretch, catch like a 3.5, like 5 minutes later. I'm like, bro, this is the stretch. Like, it's gonna happen. So I got like, I think at that point I had like 21 pounds, 21 and a half, something like that. I got to call out one fish, and it's a big fish to call out. It's like a 3.8 or something like that. So I'm going down, bro. Freaking pitch it in. It's like an isolated, like dome style mat. Donk. Freaking beautiful. And I gotta apologize to you guys, I don't have all of these on video because yeah, it was hot, dude, super hot, so the cameras kept overheating. I get in there, get this fish out, it's a freaking 5. I'm like, dude, you have to be freaking kidding me, bro. So I'm able to call out that fish. I get up to like 23 and change or something like that. I end up catching a few more, and when I tell you I'm picking this stuff apart, like it literally took me like 3 hours to fish probably 200 yards. Like I'm hitting like every little like corner, every little piece of like chopped grass that's blown into this stuff, every single like dome of hydrilla or like junk mat that I see, and I'm really picking it apart, using my power pole, stopping. I'm still pumping the bait just in case I can get another bite like that. But that ended up being my limit, dude. It was a compilation of the big dong, this guy right here, also using that Carolina rig with that net bait worm, just slowing down, fishing more traditionally, then doing some cleanup with that Nico rig with that max scent, throwing it down to them, fishing it a little untraditionally though, keeping it above their heads or pitching it kind of like out to targets and then just shaking it in place, almost just dead sticking it pretty much. And then closing the day out the way I love to fish, dude, with that big old punch rig, you know, going for broke, pitching these isolated sort of like just chunks and sections and really finding that juice stretch. And that's really what played. I put in my time the weekend before really picking apart just this massive broad area of grass where we had caught one 5-pounder and really picked it apart and identified what part of the stretch was really the juice. And it turned out to be the absolute juice, dude. I think a lot of it related to that there were brim beds near it and those fish were moving out into those brim beds. But I closed it out the way I wanted to close it out, and that is my first win on Lake Guntersville, which I'm pretty stoked about, dude. And not, like I said, not a giant tournament or anything like that, but it was cool to get some, I guess you call it like affirmation that I'm going in the right direction. I'm learning about the lake. I'm understanding how these fish operate a little bit. And this is one of my favorite times of year to fish. You can go out deep, pick them off with forward facing, use some traditional worming, kind of like Florida style approaches. And then I can go in the grass and just get absolutely thick and dirty with it, dude. And they will make that braid absolutely scream. It was super cool. Like, I appreciate you guys coming along with me on this, dude. It was kind of cool because I felt like I had to deliver for you too. So there's like double pressure. I want to perform. I want to get you a cool video of a win and that, and everything absolutely came together. So I was super stoked. I'll put links to everything that I use down in the description box so you guys can check it out. The Carolina rig kit, you know, the big dong, the Sakamata Shad, the max scent. I'll link it all if you guys want to go and see if it fits your fishery. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you coming along on this trip. Hopefully this is the first of many W's that we can put on the board and catch on video and show you guys. Tight lines, my homie, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.